quiet town, down the street and around the corner from the bear factory. Babies come from birds and bees, birds come from the sky, bees come from the trees, and bears come from the bear factory. Bear factory. As a young lad, I'd walk by the factory, but I wasn't tall enough to sneak a peek. The windows were too high. There was nothing to stand on. No boulders, no boxes. My parents would say, as I continued to grow, the thought of the bears and the neighborhood factory faded, and I thought about my future as a Major League Baseball player. Birds come from the sky, and bees come from the trees. Makes perfect sense to me. Makes perfect sense to me. I never stopped believing, and when I signed my name on the dotted line, it didn't feel like a dream. As I walked onto the field for my first game, I knew how real it was. Starting third baseman for the New York Yankees. I walked up to the plate, my wooden bat gaining power from the sunlight. I tapped it on my right cleat, and I tapped it on my left cleat. As the ball left the pitcher's hand, it felt like slow motion, awaiting my destiny. The sound of a ball hitting a bat is most special when it's not a surprise. And it wasn't. I took off for first, headed towards second, rounded the base. My eyes locked on third. Peripheral vision showed the poor fool picking up the ball in vain. A pawn in the grand scheme of my victory. The pace accelerated, locked in on third. Slide, snap, pain. Oh man, that was all it took. I woke up in the ER, knees busted, kid. A damn shame, really. Now get some sleep. Your flight leaves tonight. Stepping out of the cab, the smell of my hometown hadn't changed. The home looks different on a set of crutches. I can't sleep now. I turn and face the street. I look to my right, and there it is. The baseball field, where the dreams of my youth were turned into reality. Everything made sense. I turned right as a child, and I'm right back where I started. I look left. Something beckons me. I limp along. My steps uncertain. My gait is rough. The crutch is unsteady. I walk down the street, turn the corner, and once again I see it. The singular, mysterious bear factory. I'd been tall enough to see inside for years, though my attention had drifted to the dirt diamond. I slowly approached the window, cut my hands around my eyes and peered inside, and much to my surprise, the factory was nearly empty. Something broke inside me. The years of discipline and belief, undone in a single play. I picked up my crutch high into the air and smashed the window of the bear factory. With my crutch, I scraped the glass off the frame, heaved my crutches through the broken window, and wheeled my body inside. Birds come from the sky. Bees come from the trees, and now I'm inside the bear factory. Each footstep had an echo. There were no machines, fresh and clean. The ceiling made of glass, and moonlight lit the scene. In the middle of the factory stood 4 ancient Chinese folding screens. I approached the screens, and from within could hear a faint whirring, as if something was stirring underground. Each screen was touching the next, perfectly flush, arranged in exactly 90 degrees. My heart skipped a beat as I made space between the screens. I stepped inside the cordoned off area and closed the screen behind me. In the center of the square lies a hole in the ground, lit from below, and a ladder leading down, down, down. I took one crutch and dropped it down the hole. Took the second crutch and dropped it down the hole. Then sat at the edge, eased my broken leg into the dimly lit darkness with one good leg and 2 strong arms, awkwardly hopped down. As my head descended below the surface, the entire world changed. Gone was the fear of hope for freedom. Gone was a reckless ambition. Gone was the need to prove myself. Gone was the need for recognition. Gone was the hope for a better life. Gone were the days of casting stones. Gone were the endless interruptions of radios and telephones. Inside the land of mystery, I hopped down to the bottom. My good foot landing with a heavy blow. Directions made no difference here, so I chose a path and hobbled on. My broken leg began to throb, and I took one last look at the ladder, thinking about everything that had gone wrong. Maybe my leg would heal. Maybe it wasn't as bad as the doctors said. Maybe I could return to the dirt diamond and stake my claim as the greatest that ever was. My mind tried to barricade my heart. The roots of normalcy began to spread. Deeply ingrained ambition once again reared its ugly head. As fear tried to grow in the field of my sorrow, I heard a roar. It shook the walls of the tunnel and rattled the ladder. To hell with the world. I marched on toward the sound. With vigor and grit, the wooden crutches splintering from the furious pace. The pain in the leg, a distant memory. A soft light shone in the distance. The tunnel's path leading to what seemed like an open space. Just a few more steps into the opening, and I had arrived in the heart of the Bear Factory. Imagine a volcano, like the kind you make in science class, 100 feet wide and 200 feet tall. Now hollow it out in the middle and place yourself inside. This is the heart of the Bear Factory. In the heart of the Bear Factory stood the giant one, the behemoth, a bear so big it made the biggest bear you've ever seen seem small.
Did you just imagine a bigger bear? That one is small too. This bear was huge.
The bear looked at me, and I looked at him, sitting in front of another hole, with another ladder leading below the surface to his personal Bear Factory. He was not currently exploring his personal mystery. Maybe his mystery was already solved. Maybe it wasn't a mystery to him at all. No matter, his hole and his ladder.
A story for another day.
I walked up to the bear and tilted my head back as far as it would go. He lowered his head to meet my gaze, and with his eyebrows raised, he said hello. I asked, "Are you the one who made the deafening bellow?" He looked around and replied, "Do you see any more giant bears?" I was shocked by his demeanor, though his point was well taken. I said, "There could be any number of tunnels leading into any number of chambers. Just because I don't see any more giant bears doesn't mean they don't exist. And how would I know where to look? I don't have a blueprint." He made that face when the side of your lips go down, kind of like an opposite smile. The face you make when someone has made a really good point. Because I did make a good point. And he handed me a blueprint. Bear paws should not be able to easily handle paper. He had no problem handling skin, and with my hands followed the skin until they touched some sort of hard metallic material. I smiled and looked up at the bear. He was sharp. Protection. I perused the blueprint, and sure enough, the bear factory was actually a front, an entry point, presumably one of many, to a giant interconnected world of caverns, each one hosting a giant bear. He looked at me and said what I knew already.
The factory doesn't make the bear makes the factory. Bear factory. Bear factory.
He didn't come from the factory. The factory came from him. I chose to not look through the window once I was tall enough to see. I actually made what I thought made me. The weight was lifted with the timely grace of a monumental epiphany. Birds come from the sky, bees come from the trees. We create our lives, and bears create the factories. The bear attempted to give me 5, and I had to dive out of the way of a man-sized bear claw that nearly chopped me in half. The bear felt embarrassed, and he chuckled shyly. I put both hands up as if to let him know, it's okay, you just wanted to offer congratulations.
Oh, I accept your offer.
I made my way back to the ladder and heard one more thunderous bellow.